We knew the credits song from Cars, right? Life could be me. Okay, that was funny. Hello everyone in this YouTube world. I just got home from the theater, and you know what movie I watched? I watched Don't Worry Darling, the movie that's starring Harry Styles, Florence Pugh, and Chris Pine. And just a heads up, I'm going to be talking about specific plot points in this movie, so this is your spoiler alert. This was probably one of my most anticipated movies in 2022. I was really looking forward to this because it seemed like it was an original idea and it was something different, and I really liked the way it looked in the trailer. You have a sort of understanding in your head how you think the story's gonna go. I really genuinely think there is a good movie inside of here, but the way it was executed just was not the right route in my opinion. I felt like it just halted and came to an end very prematurely. We go from these like really big climactic events to literally the movie just ending, and that is a major downfall of this movie. Florence Pugh is carrying this movie on her back. She really was doing her best with the source material that she had. Honestly, Florence was one of the only reasons why I was so invested in this 2+ hour runtime of a movie, because essentially the movie centers around her character. I kind of wish that they would have progressed the movie further with some of their plots. There was a lot of dead space in this film. We just got a lot of Florence realizing things are out of place, and I feel like by like the 4th or 5th instance where she was just like getting freaked out, it was kind of getting old. When are we gonna progress further? Because now it's just we're figuring a lot of stuff out, and it created a lot of dead space in the film. That is no offense to any of the actors, it's just the material that was given. There was also a lot of weird beats in the film. That's kind of a big common trend, especially once you get to the 3rd act of the movie. I would go on to say that the first 2 acts of this movie aren't bad. The only thing is act 2 drags off a little bit, and it's just there was a point where the plot should have picked up the pace. The ending was definitely rushed in my opinion. I think there was so much more that the film should have and really needed to develop on whenever we've spent the last 2+ hours caring about Florence Pugh's character and her journey through this sort of simulation. It really plays on those psychological thriller tropes, and that is a really big strength in this film. Yeah, they're kind of toying around with a similar plot to Get Out, but it's talking about misogyny and kind of really toxic and unhealthy sort of relationships with partners, the lack thereof of respect for women in general. I think that was the general metaphor. The main setting of this film is gorgeous. I will say the production design on this film is top notch. You really feel immersed in the 1950s settings. You got the cars, you got the colors. The costume designs were off the charts in this film, and I love how we kind of shift where Florence, instead of feeling more put together, she's wearing more like comfortable clothing and she doesn't have as much makeup on, and you really can start seeing like the effect of her psychological visions onto her. And I think that is a really big way this movie drives, and I really think it drives it really well in the sense of we don't know why she's having these visions, and it's gradually progressing to something, but what it progressed to came out so jarringly that I think it really took me outside of the movie. At that point, I was not really immersed in the movie anymore. It might just be me, but the beat just didn't hit, and it felt really weird. It was the point in the movie where Florence Pugh's character was getting dragged, and then she was getting electrocuted in the head, and then her body was getting dragged, and then immediately her like coming into a hospital, and she had scrubs on. She literally like walked in and she had a smartphone in her hand, so there was no explanation. It it just kind of was out of nowhere, and it was a really jarring shift because we were in the 1950s for pretty much the entirety of the film up to that point, because we really didn't understand that this was a simulation until more towards the third act. It's kind of frustrating. This is why I really wanted to make this a YouTube video and why I was really driven to make it, because there is definitely an amazing film that could have been there, but there was just so many missed opportunities, because there are many roads they could have went down that would have successfully made the movie feel like it was worth the runtime, because I feel like the film wasn't worth the runtime in my opinion. I felt like with the cast and the runtime that they had, there was a better way to execute that story. Also, Harry Styles is just fine. Like, I know a lot of people are gonna go crazy whenever they see his character. I haven't really seen a lot of Harry Styles' acting career, and you know, I love Harry Styles' music, and I think he's a fantastic artist. Now, do I think he's the best in this movie? I don't really know. It's kind of subjective. He plays the character very one-dimensional. I don't know if that was just like a character choice for him, but there were just some moments in the film that felt very flat. I kind of wish that they would have taken more risks with Harry's acting, because I felt like his character was taken out of the equation way too soon in the third act. His death was definitely not a payoff moment, but it was just kind of a sudden thing. I felt like it should have been a knockout, and then there should have been a final confrontation between Florence Pugh's character and Harry Styles, and it's like, you betrayed me, and then he's like, I love you, and then maybe they could have some sort of final confrontation like that. I felt like that would really heighten the movie better. Like, say if maybe Harry Styles' character was actually at the top of the headquarters right whenever she was about to go, and like he survived. The whole concept of the simulation is very interesting in my opinion. I think that it's a very interesting idea. It feels very reminiscent of other sci-fi sort of films. It feels like a plot of a Black Mirror episode, and in a sense I kind of wish it stayed that way, just because I feel like Black Mirror executes their plots really well and kind of leaves you with this uneasy feeling, and I feel like that's the kind of mood this movie was really trying to hone in on. I feel like there was a way to make the relationship between the lead characters more twisted. I really think that there could have been a more manipulative route between the time frame where they were together and then where they separated. I like to think they're exes, and that he kind of was so obsessed with loving her that he put her in the simulation. I wish we kind of dived into that more in the real world instead of just focusing on the relationship in the simulation. I think it was the moment where Harry and Florence's characters were in Chris Pine's character's house, and I kind of thought they were gonna go down a Truman Show-like route. It would be really interesting if it was revealed that they were actually being recorded the entire time. It would be like, this is the Victory Project, but it also, that plot line's been done before. I was trying to go down a more predictable route. It twisted my expectations, which is great, but the expectation of that plot line, because they had something going. They had a really, really great idea, because once we're in the third act, it's going great until it's just done. It kind of deviates from the main structure of the movie, because I feel like we get so much rising action in that 2-hour time frame where we're not really understanding things. It literally stopped. Literally, people just start dying one by one, and then I wish we were put more into the real life stakes underneath that, because we really only audibly hear Florence's breath go whenever she wakes up. So one of the defining moments in this film is that moment in the third act where they have that car crash in the desert. That was an amazing moment. That was the thing that really made the movie. I was like, okay, we're in the final act now. And it just ends, and it was aggravating, because there has to be like an extra 20 minutes to this story, because there's no way it just ends there. I mean, I can see them making a sequel, because, you know, Florence Pugh could have signed a contract to be like, she could return for a sequel. Harry Styles wouldn't have to return because his character was killed off. They could really just take Florence Pugh's character and make her own story in the next movie. There weren't really any moments for those moments to hit, especially when we're kind of just thrown into into the third act. And it kind of just goes from 0 to 100, but you're not able to grasp on anything that's being thrown at you because it's just happening. You kind of question characters' motives because it doesn't really go in tune with what was going on throughout the entire movie. I feel like Chris Pine's character needed a bigger moment in the final act instead of being killed by his wife, because I just feel like the only prominence he had in the film was the fact that he had his eyes on Florence Pugh's character, and also that scene at the dinner table where it's like, oh, it's cool because we have Florence Pugh, Chris Pine, Harry Styles all at the same dinner table, but we're not really going deep into kind of putting in cracks in these relationships, because I felt like it would have been cool if, say, Harry Styles' character would have an affair with his boss's wife. I think that would have been a really cool aspect of the plot. And then if they would have played more into Florence Pugh having an affair with Chris Pine's character, I felt like that would have added an interesting element, and maybe Harry Styles' character could go a little bit more insane because he could be like, even in a simulated reality where everything is perfect for you, I still can't have you. So we were in the second act. I really thought this movie was gonna go to the point where these women were kidnapped and brainwashed and sent to this cult-like civilization to essentially live in this sort of simulation-like life as an experiment. That's kind of where I thought the film was going, and I really liked the fact that it was like, no, it's actually a simulated reality. It just didn't land. It really didn't land. The revelation really sucked. I don't know if it was just really weird cuts. I don't know if there's more to this film, because it feels like that there were moments that definitely should have had later moments to like come back to, but they never did. I don't feel like this is a complete film, and that's kind of aggravating because this movie had so much going for it. It had so much potential, but it really missed the mark on a lot of things. Literally, Florence Pugh's character is gonna have to escape the security from the simulation in the real world. Like, she still has to deal with that. She also has to deal with the fact that literally someone is dead. You had an amazing cast that could have really delivered an amazing Oscar-worthy film, but it really just missed so many marks to where it feels like an incomplete mess of a psychological thriller that's just trying to be like a lot of other films that are coming out in this time. We're kind of playing on similar tropes to Midsommar, as a shout out to Florence Pugh's character. Not essentially like take that moment, but played a very similar beat at the end of the film, because it's a very similar sort of aspect and metaphor, I think, that both movies had, just presented in different ways. Like, I feel like this is just high-tech Midsommar. I would say Midsommar does the delivery so much better because they're not afraid to take risks. This movie is afraid to take risks. I feel like there's a lot more that could have been done with these characters. There are redeemable aspects of this movie. The production design is amazing. Florence Pugh is the standout of this movie. She really does give her all. And I'm not sure if there's alternate endings. If there are, I would kind of like to see where the story was supposed to go. And I would really love to hear what you think about Don't Worry Darling in the comments down below. You might love it and think it's one of the best films ever made, or you might really hate it. I would love to hear what you guys think, so make sure you comment down below. Thank you guys so much for watching my YouTube video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of my videos. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at TyTyWhitehead, and I will see you all in another video. It's almost time for spoopy season.